So, the end of the last episode had me feeling kind of weird. I didn't necessarily hate it, but I didn't really necessarily like all the changes that they made. And don't even get me started on the creative liberties Neil Druckmann did for this series.
Code broken.
That being said, I'm willing to put my bias aside to try to see this with eyes more unclouded. I do have to acknowledge something I didn't think about in my last review, and that is that I'm coming at this from the perspective of somebody who has played the games very extensively and knows a lot of that sort of knowledge. This product might not even necessarily be geared towards me, but at the same time, I think that that is a mistake that the showrunners are doing in general. That being said, I think The Last of Us TV show should actually be an anthology series, just like the video games originally were going to be. With all that being said, I did do a, I'd say like 3.5 hour long review on The Last of Us Part 2. So if you guys are interested in that, please, go down and check it out. I put in a lot of work and effort, and it was actually the first video I ever posted on this channel. So, fun fact. With that being said, let's get into this. The Last of Us series, episode 2. Let's game. So it then starts off in Jakarta, Indonesia, back in 2003, where they snatch up this chick right in the middle of dinner, which, like, if I was pulled out right in the middle of dinner, I think there'd be some hands being thrown, just saying. Old lady gonna have to take off the pearls and take the dentures out, you know what I'm saying? They then take her to the science building, and she looks under a science microscope and looks at science stuff, but for real, she checks out the cortisone virus that's been infecting the humans in there. She goes into this examination room and finds a human body there. And judging by the bite that's on her left leg, and yes, I did say bite, not sign of infection, because I don't know, I guess it's kind of inconsistent as to what they want these zombies to do. I mean, I don't know, it's just kind of weird. But I guess it's like they bite you, and then while they're biting you, they the tentacles come out of their mouth or something and infect you. So, I mean, I guess it makes sense, but, whatever. I don't know. I just think it's kind of weird. It just feels like they're adding in an extra step. Just do the biting thing. Just put the spores back in. I don't know. That's just my personal opinion. But I understand. The spores were a gameplay mechanic in the game, and that wouldn't necessarily translate well because, of course, everybody in Hollywood wants to see people's faces, and they don't want to be having, their face covered all the time. And I can definitely understand, because Pedro Pascal has spent about 2 seasons of The Mandalorian, and we've only seen his face about a handful of times, so I can definitely understand why he doesn't want to be covering up his face with the damn mask all the time. But still, it is kind of weird that it's not in the show more. I will admit they actually do something very interesting with the virus that's not done in video game, and you'll see in a little bit. So she looks into the patient's mouth, and of course she finds the tentacle things, and she flips out and runs out of the room. She asks the military dude a bunch of standard questions, like how long ago did it happen, where did it happen. So the military dude says that this happened at a flour and grain processing plant, and that the woman just went freaking mental and tried to attack a couple of the co-workers, injuring 3 of them before the police came there and smoked her ass. The military guy also mentions that the 3 people that she bit started exhibiting symptoms, and now it is standard procedure to execute anyone that has been infected. The military bro then gives the most devastating news, which is that 14 of the workers have not shown up for work. And it's even more intense when she says that there's not any sort of medicine or vaccine that can be made for this type of fungal infection. And the woman concludes that the entire city is straight fucked, and they need to just carpet bomb the entire place. And holding back the tears, she says that she would like to be transported to her family so that they may all die together. I'm not gonna lie, this scene was actually pretty good. Like, not gonna lie, like, this is actually a worthy addition. And I mean, the actors here who, I mean, I've never seen in any sort of media, I mean, they actually do a pretty good job at trying to hold back their emotions while getting the news that the human race is pretty much fucked. Like, this sort of shit is what The Last of Us is made to be. That's what is so weird about this. Like, some of the things they copy, and the stuff that they copy is sometimes good, sometimes not. The stuff that they add in is sometimes good, sometimes not. It's just, it's a really big hit and miss sometimes. And it just kind of equals out for me, I don't know. Anyways, it then continues with Ellie waking up to Joel and Tess watching over her for the entire night to make sure that she didn't turn. And it's very clear that this version of Joel must be playing on New Game Plus since he has the M4A1 unlocked and this thing has barely even started. It's clearly shown that Joel got like some sort of hairline fracture on his hand when he went ballistic on that soldier the last episode. It is kind of cool that they keep up continuity like that, I guess. Joel suggests sneaking her back through the QZ and getting another battery, which is just kind of dumb because even video game Joel knew that going back to the QZ was an impossibility since they had just killed a bunch of guards escaping and that they would be on high alert. So bringing Ellie back was out of the question. And then not only that, but Joel was never like an outright dick to Ellie like this. Like, I mean, I don't know. I just feel like his reasoning for pushing her away is a lot more malicious, but I don't know. We'll have to see how the series unfolds. I'm like actually really interested to see how my final thoughts, like when the entire series is done, I'm really interested to see how my final thoughts will be of this series.
Is that chicken?
Or until they get it from smugglers. Guess not you guys.
Okay, I gotta admit that joke was actually kind of funny. Tess wants to know why Ellie is so important, and Ellie tells them the super secret information that Marlene told her, which, of course, is that she is the key to a vaccine, according to them, and they need to get her to the Big Brain Science Center out west. But, of course, Joel thinks that this is bullshit and just kind of brushes it off. Tess seems to talk some sense into Joel here, saying that it don't really matter whether or not she is or isn't the cure. They're gonna get what they want anyways, which it's kind of like, it's such a simple thing. I don't really understand why she's even explaining this to him or why he needs it explained to him. Like, yeah, I mean, it does, like, even Joel in the video game knew this. Like, it doesn't fucking matter if they think she's the cure for humanity. And he doesn't care either. He's just gonna take her to where she needs to go and get his shit.
I'm not supposed to tell you why you're smuggling me, if that's what you're getting at.
You wanna know the best thing about my job? I don't gotta know why. Be honest with you, I give two shits what you're up to.
Well, great.
Good.
If she so much as twitches.
Okay, I mean, I guess that's kind of funny. You got me there. Okay, something I got to applaud them for, but the set design, or at least the CGI artists, and the props department deserve A+. Like, this iteration really does nail the whole aesthetic of The Last of Us. Like those twin towers leaning on each other, this little stuffed animal underneath the car. I mean, it just tells so much by not telling anything, and it is pretty good, I'll admit. Ellie talks a little bit about how she got infected originally, saying that she visited the mall back in the Boston QZ, but she actually doesn't admit that Riley was there. And I think she did the same thing in the video games too, if I'm not mistaken. Or if she did mention Riley, it was only in passing and didn't actually mention her by name. Like, once again, set design gets an A+. I mean, look at this scene of these cute ass duckies and this frog playing the piano. Like, I don't know, something about this does just tickle that sort of Last of Us vibe. I don't know. Ellie mentions that she can't swim, and Joel belittles her for this.
Seriously? No, smartass. I mean,
Once again, I mean, Joel's just kind of acting like a fucking dick for really no reason. Like, I don't know, it's just really kind of striking a nerve a little bit. And then this actually makes the next scene kind of a little weird because Ellie's kind of fucking around here, actually causes a shit ton of noise, but Joel actually doesn't bite her head off here and actually helps her out without saying any smart ass comments, which I guess is actually kind of like a nice moment for them. But it's like a good moment sandwiched between like two shitty moments, so, you know, I don't know.
Come on, it wasn't that bad.
You try climbing 10 freaking floors with our knees.
I feel you there, sister. So by the way, I forgot to mention, they actually go into this hotel and the rest of the way it seems to be crowded by a bunch of crap. So you actually get a mechanic that is done in the gameplay very frequently, which is where Joel boosts another character over some rubble so that they can either clear the way or do something that involves doing something else that will then involve them reuniting together and progressing the narrative forward. So it is actually kind of funny that they put this little nod to the games in here. While Tess is clearing the way of debris, Joel and Ellie actually have a little bit of a bonding moment here when Joel notices Ellie's cool switchblade, and he actually shows the only genuine interest in Ellie since they started traveling together. And this leads to some more conversation, but obviously Joel is his normal broken self, so he doesn't really want to say too much about himself or his life, so it's kind of cut a little bit short, but still in character for the most part. Ellie asks how it's like to kill an infected, knowing that they were once a person, and then she asks him how it was killing a real human like the one last night. But you know how it is, before he can answer, Tess shows up and they're on to the next area. So Tess gives a little bit of a biology lesson about the infected. Turns out that a lot of people have been trying to get into the Boston QZ and they've been getting infected trying to cross. We also see a bunch of infected that have kind of congregated in this area, and when the sunlight goes over them, they all kind of flip out, which is kind of cool and a pretty good nod to the last game. Although this time it's a bit different. So the cordyceps seem to be connected with one another, so the infected can actually communicate large distances away from each other. They'll cling on to a surface and then spread their tendrils all over the place. She even says if you step on an infected's tendril, then you could be setting off an alert beacon to all of the infected in the area, which is actually a pretty frightening concept, and I gotta admit is actually probably the best way they could have done the infection in the TV format that they have. Granted, I still think spores would have been better, but this is okay.
So we're not going that way. What do we do then?
museum.
I mean, it's almost like they're just kind of shouting out these places that we've been to in the game. Like, oh, where do we go? Hotel. Where do we go now? Museum. It's like, okay, we get it. You know, these are places that we've seen in the game and you're trying to reference them. We get it, you know, but come on. So they get to the museum, but there seems to be an infected outbreak since the last time they visited there. And why the fuck is Joel touching the tendrils with his bare hands? I mean, Joel says it's dead, but even though it's dead, like, I still wouldn't be touching that crap. And on top of that, you didn't know it was dead until you busted the thing open. They investigate the museum and find a dude that's been absolutely torn to shreds. We obviously know it was probably a clicker, and Joel and Tess know that it's a clicker, but Ellie is pretty oblivious to it, saying that she's been attacked by an infected before, and it didn't look like that when she was done. Which, I mean, they're right next to the entrance, so you should probably just go outside and explain what the hell a clicker is and why you need to be silent, so that she can get the gravity of the situation. Like, I think it's just kind of dumb that they just tell her to be quiet and they move on. As they're searching the building, she steps on this hand and makes a crunching noise, but thankfully she's an NPC right now, so none of the infected hear her. Once again, some of these long shots are pretty good where it just kind of lets you drink in all of the scenery. I mean, look at this right here. Look at this nice image of an infected person. Like, ugh, like some of the detail they put into this is pretty damn good, I'm not gonna lie. So Joel, Tess, and Ellie walk through this doorway and they trigger a point of no return, which means, as tradition, the infected will come swarming in because they heard the sound. And we are first introduced to the clickers, which actually have a very nice design and are pretty damn creepy compared to their in-game counterparts. Dude, so apparently Joel says right there, they can't see but they can hear. I did not even know that that's what he said until I turned on the subtitles the second time watching this. Like, seriously, once again, just go outside and tell Ellie this information. I mean, I didn't even understand what the hell he was saying. At least it's somewhat accurate to the game, where the clickers will notice you, even if you weren't doing anything. Like, seriously, that pissed me off so much in the first game. You know, it actually took me to the second game to realize when the clickers get suspicious in an area, they'll kind of like look in the general area that they're suspicious of and give like this, like, you know, head nodding noise, or this head nodding thing, kind of like what this clicker does here, where it will kind of make like two loud noises, and I think that's like it projecting a sound wave and seeing what comes back, and that's why I usually would always get spotted. So I thought that was kind of an interesting piece of information. So they get spotted by these two clickers, and because they haven't collected enough pills yet, their weapon sway is all over the place, so they decide to book it around, which actually, just a little bit of a side note, in grounded difficulty, this is kind of like the best strategy for the infected, because they obviously can't get what they can't catch. So it is extremely useful to actually just kind of run around until you get a good angle on them. I actually really like this scene where Joel is like reloading his gun, but he's trying to do it real quietly while the clicker is distracted, and it kind of pans away from the infected so we can't really see him, but then we hear the noise like right next to him, and it was actually like kind of intense, I'm not gonna lie. Although at the same time, it would have given me a great idea, because like, why not keep the shell casings and use them as a distraction? Like, it's such a useful thing to do. You could throw a shell casing off in the distance and the infected would run towards it, giving you guys enough time to slip out of there. I guess the physicality of these infected are pretty good, but I don't know, I feel like the video game did do it maybe a little bit better. I mean, as you can see in the video game, like, they just flail all over the place when they're trying to get towards you, because obviously they can't freaking see you, so they're swinging their arms violently trying to grapple you. I guess it's the same here, but I really wish that when Joel capped this guy with his M4, his mushroom on his head would explode, because that's what happens in the game. And they kind of do it with the other infected that he killed. So, I don't know, it's just kind of weird. Like, why not keep in that small little detail? It was actually pretty cool. Tess says she has a sprained ankle, but we both know that this is bullshit. And if you played the game before, then you're in the know. And if you haven't, then you'll find out in a little bit.
You fucking kidding me? I mean, if it was gonna happen to one of us.
Okay, I gotta admit, that one got me a little bit. Joel seems a little hesitant that Ellie got infected twice, like maybe she's going to turn on the second bite, but Tess isn't really having any of his pessimism right now. You know, there is one scene I wish they would have put in the game, but yeah, Joel and Tess are talking about what they're going to do after this run is complete, and Tess actually suggests settling down, which Joel has asked her a bunch of times, but she says she's not going to brush him off this time.
After we get back, we can take it easy for a little while.
You want to take it easy.
Hey, you're the one always going.
And you always brush me off.
Well, I won't this time.
I'll believe it when I see it.
Which I think would have been a good addition, especially with what's going to happen next. You get a little bit of the dialogue that was from the game here, and I don't know, it just kind of seems a little wooden compared to how the game is.
So is that everything you hoped for?
Is it everything you hoped for?
Jury's still out. But man, can't deny that view.
Jury's still out, but man, you can't deny that view.
So they all make it to the Capitol building, but nobody's there to greet them. So they go inside and find that the entire Firefly's backup has been killed. And after a little bit of investigation, they see it was probably due to the fact that a couple of them were infected and they all killed each other. If I'm not mistaken, in the game, I think Fedra actually was the one who killed these guys. So Joel wants the GTFO, but Tess can't go because she reveals that she's been infected. And I think this scene was done a lot better in the video game, if I'm being completely honest. Like, just check this out.
Guess what? We're shitty people, Joel. It's been that way for a long time.
No, we are survivors.
This is our chance.
It is over, Tess! Now, we tried.
It's over. We are going home.
It's not my fucking home!
Let's just go home.
I'm not going anywhere. This is my last stop.
I'm staying. Our luck had to run out sooner or later.
Our luck had to run out sooner or later.
You going on?
No, don't! Don't touch me.
Holy shit. She's infected.
Fuck. She's infected.
Joel,
Let me see.
I didn't mean for this.
Show it to me.
Show me.
Oh, Christ.
Oops, right?
I mean, I don't know what it is, but it just seems like there's way more emotion in the video game than there is in the show. Like, I don't really get that. I don't understand why some actors, they just don't really emote all that much, and some actors do. Like, I don't know, just kind of weird. So she tells Joel to take Ellie to Bill and Frank's and figure out what to do from there, while trying to search for this elusive big brain science station out west. Anyways, right in the middle of Tess's plea for Joel to take her, one of the infected comes alive, and Joel puts a bullet in his head, but it's too late because he's already part of the fungus network and has now just sent every single fungal zombie in a 10-mile radius to their exact location. So in light of this new revelation that all of these infected are about to come swarming in, Tess starts knocking over all of these oil barrels and grenade cases all over the ground and tells them that she's gonna buy them some time. She tells Joel, save who you can save, and then grabs Ellie and rushes out of there while she's screaming and banging on him, no, let me go, we're not leaving her, you fucker, da, 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 da. But it's like, I don't know, I just feel like it was done a lot better in the game. I mean, Ellie actually apologized for getting them in this whole situation in the first place. I just feel like the game made it hit a lot more harder.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean for this.
So the next scene is interesting, fucked up, kind of weird, and maybe dumb all at the same time. So after Joel and Ellie leave Tess, she hears all the infected about to crash through the door, so she takes out her lighter and tries to light it so that she can drop it on the ground where all of the oil and grenades are, but she just can't get it to light. Meanwhile, the infected actually bust through the door and start pooling in, but nothing happens. And I was actually kind of surprised because they actually don't just swarm her immediately after rushing in. This one actually kind of slowly walks up to her and then kisses her, forcing his tendrils down her mouth. I mean... So I looked in the behind the scenes stuff, and it seems like there was actually a reason for this to happen. One, according to the people that wrote this, the cordyceps virus sprints at people who are resisting. But if you don't resist, then they'll just peacefully come up and infect you. Which, I mean, I guess that's alright. but I don't know. I don't think that's really accurate. I think most of the time people would probably just resist, but you know, whatever. That being said, as for why she's fumbling with the damn lighter doesn't make any sense. There's grenades on the ground. Just pick one of them up, pull the pin, and wait for them to come in. Simple as that. I mean, she doesn't actually say it here, but in the game, Tess absolutely despised the fact of being turned into one of those things. So much so that she literally went out in a blaze of glory by standing up to a whole Fedra strike squad by herself. One more thing that I think was actually a missed opportunity here is if you are gonna do this absolutely ridiculous, like standing here and letting this guy kiss you, forcing his tendrils down your mouth, like at least make it kind of mean something. Like maybe it would have been cool if Tess had hinted that she had another boy toy before Joel that was actually her soulmate, or at least she felt was her soulmate. But he wanted more from life than to rot inside of the QZ, so she helped him escape, but didn't have the guts to leave the QZ. And then, when she's in this moment, she actually sees the zombified version of himself, and that's why she has this look of fear, but also doesn't choose to run or fight back in any way. I think that actually probably would have been a real touching moment if they decided to do that. After the explosion, I actually do kind of like this nice touch they did, where they have these like infected that are actually outside that got caught by the blast, and they're just kind of burning and screaming. I don't know, I thought that was actually kind of a good touch. Anyways, Joel and Ellie just kind of walk off, and that's kind of the end of the episode. After the end credits, they do kind of tease that the next episode is going to be about how Bill and Frank actually met each other, which if they decide to go down that road, that would actually be kind of cool, to be honest. Not only that, but my favorite dude, Nick Otterman, aka Ron Swanson, is going to be playing Bill, which I don't really think he kind of fits the role of Bill 100%, at least not like the mannerisms or the way Bill was, but it is Ron Swanson, so I don't know, I might be willing to give it a pass, and it does seem like it is going to be a very interesting episode ahead. And to be completely honest, I am excited to see what that episode has in store for us. So all in all, what do I have to think about this episode? I don't know. The set design, props, and everything that has to do with the world building through the environment is very well. And even Ellie's humor is pretty good for the most part. And I'm kind of torn between two different rankings here. But I gotta go with my gut here and say 5 out of 10. Average. It's not bad, it's not great, it's okay. I know the other one was a 6, and like I said, the only reason why I put that as 6 was because I really liked the physicality of that one infected dude. I think the show needs to bring out its big guns if it's going to be a memorable series, because so far it's been pretty slow, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see. With that being said, thank you for listening to my review. Once again, I have a video on The Last of Us Part 2 that is about 3.5 hours long, and I think is pretty good, and I worked a lot on it, and it is the first video I ever posted, so, you know, there is that. But if not, thank you for at least watching this review. Some general questions that I'll answer here. Somebody asked me in the comments of the last video that they really liked the review, but they thought that me saying that climate change was political is crazy, which I'm not really going to get necessarily into my viewpoints here, but I will say that I do believe that a lot of climate activists blow things way out of proportion, and also a lot of proposed energy solutions are actually just scams. But that's all I'm really willing to say on the matter. Tell me in the comments below how you guys enjoyed the review or the episode in general, and tell me, is it a little bit weird, Joel's beard here? Because, I mean, Pedro Pascal, I mean, no digging on this dude, but, you know, he's kind of got a little bit of alopecia going on in his beard right here. I mean, it doesn't look like 100%. I mean, I get it, it's the apocalypse, whatever. A lot of guys deal with alopecia. But whatever. Do you think his beard should have been a little bit more fuller? I mean, I think you know, a Hugh Jackman, you know, Logan type beard would have been pretty good. And Hugh Jackman in general doing this role. But whatever, just my opinion.